Well, right now I'm just looking around with the microphone. We're kind of surrounded by 15 or 20 different species. We have a sage phoebe off in the direction the mic's pointed now, singing its spring song, which is he only does for a few weeks out of the year. Well, I've been a birder forever, all my life really, and I always knew that I was listening to the birds as much as I was watching them, and people were always surprised that I could hear and differentiate between the various birds I was hearing, and I realized that it was a talent that not everybody has. Now we have two birds that we're paying attention to. One is the sage phoebe that's sitting right in the top of an old mulberry tree up here. You notice if we turn the mic away a little bit, how it cuts down on the volume of the call. If I hear a bird that I've only heard once 4 years ago in some other habitat, it'll take me exactly back to that habitat. I can remember where the bird was sitting and how he was, like a smell will do for a lot of people. House finch is a really common bird everywhere in Arizona, everywhere in the country almost now, but they're pretty interesting in that they have very specific local dialects. He's got his own thing going on though, this guy. He's an innovator. I started getting interested in what these birds were talking about, what all the communication was about, and how they were communicating. And it always seemed more complex to me than the books made it out to be. You hear that squeaky little thing? The most complex bird song there is. I started to record birds thinking that if I did that, I could bring them back into the house and study them a little more carefully and maybe learn a little bit about what's going on. And what I found out was that it was 50 times as complex as I thought it was even then. When you look at the song of a marsh wren in a spectrogram on the computer screen, you can see words and phrases and punctuation in what he's doing, and you can see how he uses that punctuation. Aircraft are really the bane of recordists' lives. They dominate the soundscape for miles around them. And now we've got one doing acrobatics right up above us here. The problem these days is more that there is so much sound around you, so much human-generated sound, that most of the natural sound just gets blocked out, and you get used to filtering out most of what you hear all the time. When you go out in nature, I think it's real difficult to turn off that filter and start listening again. It even took me a while when I started doing this seriously to really pay attention to very faint sounds in the distance, and you kind of have to train yourself to do it. It's your natural inclination, like I'm now listening to the Anna's hummingbird behind me as I'm supposed to be paying attention to you. The stuff that looks like grass here is another kind of a reed called Juncus mexicana, and it's populated by fishing spiders. They don't actually fish, but they're always right at the edge of the water here. Nice thing about nature recording is it's just a nice excuse for getting out and seeing all this interesting stuff every day. It's a great time of year. Everybody's singing. Everybody's trying to attract a mate, establish a territory. That's a Virginia rail right there. Did you hear that? It sounded like a pig, didn't it? Lots of Virginia rails around this marshy area of the lake, and of course around Tavasi Marsh. Tavasi Marsh and Pex Lake are new members of the Tuzigood IBA, which is the latest and first state important bird area. And we're in the process of trying to ensure that this is all conserved for the future. Spectacular habitat for over 200 species of birds. What is that? Cormorant, double-crested cormorant. I'll be darned. I think that's a first for Pex Lake. This guy is lost. Like, where's my family? This red-tail that's sitting up here is one I call Chewy. He's a young male. He's 3 years old. He was born, about a mile over this direction. And this is Chewy's territory. He's got probably the most deluxe red-tailed hawk territory that there is, and he's aggressive and absolutely defends this territory of his. The Verde River, the cause for the whole Verde Valley to be here, and the reason that everybody lives here, flows right by my house like a private little stretch of the river. And it just means everything to me. This is my whole life, all of this right around the house here. And I feel so lucky to have got this piece of property that my parents took such good care of for 28 years. They've been feeding birds here for 28 years. And these guys have been coming back on migration for 28, maybe 30 years now to this house, expecting to be fed. I feed them 10 pounds of food a day. Let's go down and see if we can't get these moorhens singing away. They're trying to entertain us. We might as well take advantage of it. Look at that. Look at him walking on those lily pads. Is that beautiful? Give me one of those. It was great to hear the moorhens all calling and talking to each other, and the male and the female chattering amongst themselves, and you get to feel like you're much more of a part of their world than you do as just an observer. Look, I have a beautiful white tail with 2 big flashes on it. She says so. I've seen better. Talk for me. He's not got a really good territory, and he isn't out at the top of a tree displaying like an older male would be. He's just kind of practicing, seeing what he's got. The amount of information that's conveyed from one bird to his target, I think, is very, very complex and very specific. Someday we're going to realize that there's much more going on out there, that these guys are much more complex than we think they are. This is Naturesongs. This is my website. It's in fact the busiest bird-related website on the internet today. It's certainly the largest natural sound site on the internet today. It gets 3,000 to 4,000 individual visitors a day. A lot of people interested in this kind of stuff. It's branched me out to where I started a bulletin board, essentially, a listserv for recordists all over the world that now has 450 members from every corner of the world. That's a pied-billed grebe. A lot of people write to me every day and say, geez, you know, your website's a treasure, I really love it, you know, it's opened up a whole new thing for me or whatever, and those are great letters to get, you know, because they say that it is whetting their appetite to appreciate nature more than what they did before. And that's the point of everything I do, is to get people to appreciate it more. You know, to want to conserve it, to know that there's value in this stretch of quiet river and in this important bird area that goes up and down the Verde River, and in Tavasi Marsh over here, that if we build 900 homes out there, it's gone forever. Your grandkids will never know what a marsh looked like. And we can afford that, you know, we can afford that one marsh and this one lake and a few other tracts like that here and there in Arizona. You know, we don't need houses everywhere. There's plenty of golf courses in Phoenix. That's my plea. Save us a little bit of this.